Everyone, Todd Herman. We're here to have a discussion today about the mindset of a champion with current NHL MVP and Stanley Cup champion Nathan MacKinnon, his longtime trainer, Andy O'Brien, and John Salenza, the founder and CEO of Cizzle Brands and Quench Hydration. Stay tuned. We've got a lot to talk about, unpack when it comes to how to become a champion, what it takes to become a champion, and how you can live that every single day.
Nathan MacKinnon.
Nathan MacKinnon.
Sports performance specialist, Andy O'Brien.
Learning about the whole idea of strength conditioning and how it can help his performance.
The CEO of Cizzle Brands, John Salenza.
All right, welcome back, everybody. I'm Todd Herman. Again, I'm a peak performance coach. Been doing the mental game stuff for almost 30 years now, working with top performing athletes. And it's just fun to sit down with some superstar people across some different disciplines, Nathan MacKinnon, Andy O'Brien, and John Salenza. And to kick things off, I'd love to find out from each of you, because you've had and been around so many incredible people, when you look at someone or you've been around someone that has that moniker, that attitude, that persona of a champion, what are just a few qualities that you've learned from other people that's helped you get to where you're at, Nathan?
Yeah, I've been very lucky. Andy introduced me to Sidney Crosby at a very young age. He was my favorite player growing up, and I got to learn a lot from him. Just his professionalism, his competitive drive, and something I can relate to really well, and just someone who gets the most out of his craft every day.
Yeah.
And I think that's, the number one thing you really want from someone is just trying to get better every single day and never complacent. And I think that's definitely someone I looked up to, and I still do.
So when you go back, so most out of their craft, when you were young, when Andy introduced you, what did you specifically see as a difference between how Sidney was approaching things versus other guys that were, whether they're training around Andy or were just coming on the ice as well? Like, what was that difference that you saw right away?
Just his drive. I mean, even today at our Quench camp, he's 37. He's on the ice longer than anybody. He doesn't have to be. He's won everything. He's done everything. It's inspiration. I think it's obviously just a cool thing to be around for everyone at this camp. And at a young age, I started skating with him when I think I was 16. He just practiced a little differently than anything I've ever seen. Trained a little differently. Just so much fire and compete, but also he has a great time while he's doing it. So definitely lucky I got to experience that.
Yeah. Andy, he's Stanley Cup champion as well. He's a member of the Florida Panthers staff this year. Some of the biggest names in hockey come to Andy, and some of the most respected strength, conditioning, performance coaches also look to you as well for inspiration. You've been around some amazing people. What do you see as that difference maker between a champion and an also ran that might be there?
Yeah, I think the big thing that stands out for me is love and passion. So someone is in pursuit of something because they love it, and they love it and are so passionate about it, it just causes them to continue to push forward at times where other people just can't. And that inspires other people. And there's just this momentum that gets created from that.
So people use those cliches too a lot, like, you got to love it, you got to have a passion for the thing. But, from your perspective, how does that actually show up, like, in the hard stuff that happens in between when the seasons and the games are happening?
Yeah, I think to be honest, the thing that jumps in my mind is vulnerability. You know, you love it to the point where you actually feel vulnerable to the potential of not being able to do it or not being able to pursue it. And
That's a great. I've never heard that before.
Yeah,
that's a great answer.
I see it as a strength and conditioning coach because I think the top athletes are vulnerable because they just really love what they do so much, and they just have so much riding on the things that they're doing every day to get to that destination. And so me as a support staff, you're trying to support people from a strategic standpoint, but also as a human being.
John Salenza, he's the founder and CEO of Cizzle Brands and Quench Hydration as well. John, you've had a storied career in entrepreneurship and building brands. You've been around incredible people. You've had great mentors, investors as well. There's some non-world-class people that you've been around too. So those champions that have showed up in your world around you, you've been around sport now for 30-plus years too. Your perspective?
Yeah, for me, I mean, sports, business people, the common theme was discipline and willing to make those sacrifices and do things outside your comfort zone, right? So are you willing to, get on those extra planes, trains, and those longer drives to do certain things? And I've seen it with athletes who travel to different places because they want to work with that specific trainer or, go down their own rabbit holes because they want to learn more about something on the nutrition side. And in business, it's, there's so many factors in life. You have family, friends, what have you, but are you going to put in the time to make those sacrifices to get on the planes, to be, in Kelowna 1 week and Halifax the next week? And, the world's definitely changed, but, there's nothing like FaceTime and getting in front of people, whether it's through sports or business. That's the kind of common trait that I've seen from people. It's they're willing to get outside their comfort zone, leave their own personal ivory tower and live their life in a disciplined fashion with some sacrifice that comes along with that, for sure.
So, I mean, obviously there's a lot that goes into building a champion. There's obviously physical skill and some talent that comes into that, and there's someone's attitude and their approach to things, and just to kind of like help define that idea of mindset. Like there's the way that I kind of describe it to people is if you think of two circles that overlap as a Venn diagram, there's the what, and then there's the way. So there's the what needs to happen out on the ice in your role or on the team. There's what we need to go and do today in practice, and then there's the way that you approach it, and that could be the attitude, that could be the values that you have or the beliefs that you're taking into it, the way that you go about, you kind of create a team around you and all that. Nathan, I'm going to take you back to 2021. There was a fantastic press conference. You guys just got knocked out of the playoffs against the Vegas Knights. And specifically, you said in the middle of this interview, which, again, this is the difficulty of operating at this level. Like, you're coming off of, you're pushing towards a Stanley Cup. And now you got to go and talk to people that you don't want to go talk to. I'll say it for you, so you don't need to say it. And you said, that's all we talk about. There's always next year. I'm going into my 9th year, and I haven't won shit. But specifically, that idea of next year, I find that that's such a difference between people who have very much a winner's mindset and a champion mindset of, it's not just about me and my personal accolades in my own career. Whether you can go back to that or not, what does next year mean? Like when you hear other people say, oh, there's always next year. What do you think when you hear that?
I don't love that comment. Yeah, I guess it was just a super raw moment. We were the favorites to win the cup that year, up 2-0 on a team against Vegas, and they beat us 4 in a row to lose in 6, and just super disappointed. And I just know how much fulfillment team success gives me. Obviously, I won some personal accolades this year, but it doesn't really fill you up inside. It's just, honestly, I just think about losing to Dallas more than winning awards. You're just by yourself, and obviously it's cool. It's humbling, and you're on the trophy with some pretty amazing players. But before that, obviously in that interview, I've never won a Stanley Cup, but I had a feeling that it would feel pretty good, and we ended up winning the next season. So
Well, that's what I want to get to, because one of the first comments that you said that next year, so 2022 rolls around, you do win the cup, and I think it's just so telling about some of the drive and the intensity that you have. One of the first things that you said was talking about you couldn't wait to go see your family.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of, you talked about passion and love, and you've already brought up the word drive before. How much does wanting to do well for the people that you care about the most, is that a part of your game plan too?
Yeah, well, I think another leader in my life was my dad, or is my dad.
Yeah.
He got up at 4 a.m. every day, worked for CN Rail my whole childhood, drove me to the rink. Just a great friend of mine to this day. So just hugging him on the ice, my mom, my sister, girlfriend, was special, and I'd love to do that again. And but yeah, I mean, in life, with not sharing success with anyone, it's not very fun. So obviously, I have great people around me.
So then, how much does that show up though in everyone? There's a lot of content that's out there, or, leadership people or performance people talk about keeping the main thing, and but on a weekly or even a daily basis, how much does that drive to do well for mom and dad, or the people, does that really show up very much for you, in the intense work that it takes to be at the level that you're at?
Yeah.
Do you think about it often, or?
I just know how much, how much work I put into it. A lot of the work is honestly away from the rink. It's a lot of time. People wouldn't really think that, but it's all the little decisions you make when you go home after you practice, and a lot of treatments or training or whatever I'm doing. So I don't see my fiance as much as other guys might, and I know that helps me a lot. And same thing with my family. I just know I have a great support system, but I do try to leave it at the rink as much as I can, but it is hard to turn it off for sure.
Yeah. From your perspective, Andy, coaching them, being around them in those moments where they're not on the ice and they're not competing, what's some of the bigger takeaways that you've got from being with them that you try to pass along to younger guys that are trying to pursue a similar thing?
Well, it's been great for me just to be a fly on the wall, to be able to observe successful athletes across different sports, even within hockey, players that are very different, really different personalities. I'd say Sid and Nate are quite different, and really bring qualities in different ways. But then there's common denominators between every successful person. And again, it just comes back to loving something when it's good and loving it when it's bad. You don't love it for the great results. You don't love it for the enjoyment necessarily. You love it so much that when it's painful, when you have injuries, when it's tedious, when it takes away from your personal life, you still love it, and you can still lose yourself in it. So it's just embracing all of it unconditionally, and I think that is probably just the signature of the best of the best. It's not necessarily a secret or technique that you can pass on. I think it's something that's inherently within the greats.
Do you think that there's ability to, if someone's going through that rough patch and it's hard for them to, connect back to them loving it, do you think there's is there a way to do that? Or is it maybe a sign that maybe they don't love it? What do you think?
Yeah, I think that boils down to perspective. I can remember a time when I was working with the Penguins I was with them in those years, 2015, 16, 17, and had a chance to win a couple championships. And my first year in Pittsburgh was kind of a rough start. Team was off to a really bad start. Sid in particular was off to a really bad start. And it was just media.
Sorry, Sydney, don't leave comments below the video.
Oh, yeah,
we'll have really good stories too.
Right, exactly. So tough start for him. He's getting a lot of criticism. And there was just this kind of random day that happened. And I came in on a day off just to do a little workout, and it kind of turned into just sitting on the turf, just kind of having a little chat, for a few hours. And I think sometimes in those low moments, when you start to see the possibility of the rebound, you know, you start to see the possibility of the good times. It's like a team being in last place and imagine what that story would be like winning. And the feeling of being able to pursue something exciting and pursue something rewarding. It went like even with the way the Stanley Cup Finals went this year with the Panthers being up 3-0 and then losing 3 games. You know, I'd much rather win in Game 7 in that scenario than winning Game 4. You know, so I think you go into these kind of deep dark holes and you start to imagine the redemption that comes out of that on the other side, and that starts to inspire you.
Yeah, you just pinged on something I want to hit on in a second, which is that creative imagination, that creativity side of things. John, we were talking last night at dinner about the blood, sweat, and tears. You made that comment, and I said that, you know, there's people that we use these cliches a lot, and I said, but what does that mean? Like, what does blood, sweat, and tears mean? Because I'm thinking about the people that are watching, and there's superstars that are watching, or there's people that are trying to get to whatever their goal is, and they hear platitudes all the time from people. But what does it actually look like in the context of growing and scaling 8-figure, multi-million-dollar product brands? Like, what does that look like on a daily basis or a weekly basis in order for you to get there?
Yeah, I mean, I've had the good fortune of, you know, learning from different business people and taking, you know, to this day what I learned from these guys in regards to sports to business. And for me, that comment means, again, sacrifice, kind of what I was touching on before, Todd. So it's when you're entering the CPG space, you're playing against Coke and Pepsi, right? Like that's you know, for me anyway, that's the Super Bowl of business, right? It doesn't get any bigger stakes than that. So if you're going to compete at that level, and you're going to start with, you know, previous brand that I co-founded, you know, we started with $50,000, right? It's an uphill battle, and it's an intensity and a focus that, you know, to Nate's point about trying to win a cup, it's very hard to turn off, and it's something that's 24/7, right? It's every little detail, every email, nothing can go missed, and with that comes sacrifice. But, you know, we had a camp 2 years ago, maybe 3 years ago, and Andy was, I'm going to say something, but was losing it over the roast on the coffee, right? And people are like, why is this guy losing it over the roast on the coffee? I loved it. Yeah. I loved it. He wouldn't let one detail go. Yeah. And for me, I got a teammate, I can go to bed at night. Because if this guy's worried about the roast on the coffee, I know that camp's going to be absolutely incredible. So it's all those little details along the way. It's the sacrifice. It's you know, your warehouse is a shower because you can't afford a warehouse. Yeah. Yeah, you have no more money in the bank account, so you're going to jog to the meeting, and when you get there, you're sweating. Yeah. People are going to, hey, you run here? Yeah, it's on brand, right? You know, health, wellness, right? Meanwhile, you know, so it's
being able to spin that story when confronted with someone else.
Oh, you're constantly spinning. You're constantly spinning, right? Like CPG is a cash flow nightmare. It just is, right? Like 111 beverage businesses in the U.S. have gone bankrupt in the last 6 months, and some have been operated poorly, and some just. It's a cash flow thing, right? Yeah. You're have 6 months of inventory on hand. You're ordering product 3 months in advance, and you're not getting paid till 45 days after you sell that product, right? Yeah. So when you're in startup mode, now granted, this time around we're a lot more capitalized than we were on the previous band and hit the ground running, but you're constantly juggling balls in the air, and you got to get people to believe in you. Yeah. Right? They got at the end of the day, they're going to bet on you, the people. So it's, for me, you know, there's lots to it, but I can just sum it up as almost a maniacal discipline. Yeah, that's what comes with that.
So you just brought up something right now that I hear all the time from whether it's entrepreneurs. They're like, oh, I'm a visionary type person. You know, like I'll let someone else do the operations or handle the details. So detail oriented. From your perspective, Nate, like, because you're building it, you need a team around you nowadays. Like, it was so different 30 years ago. Like, no one had a strength coach, no one had their own skills coaches, no one had a nutritionist, or, you know, on and on down the line. From an athlete, like when you're looking at whether it's teammates or other guys that you run across, like, how much does paying attention to the little details, just with your own training, make a difference between the guys who have, whether it's great careers and great opportunities for themselves, and the ones that, you know, may or may not? Like, do you even think about detail-oriented type
Yeah, definitely. I have a big team around me now. It's kind of just naturally grown. I think every year, obviously I had a good year last season, but I think there's a lot of changes to be made every season, trying to evolve and get better. Yeah, and obviously I leave the training to Andy, but I want to understand it. I like understanding the nutrition aspect. I work with a mental coach. I have a full-time treatment person. I like to understand everything. Obviously, it's not my department. I don't know best.
Yeah.
But
how deep on the understanding do you like to go? Like,
I just want to know why it's going to work.
Okay.
And I want to hear a couple of reasons why before I trust Andy, obviously, with everything. But I think when you understand something a little deeper, it helps.
Yeah.
It resonate. Whether I'm getting treatment, I want to know why he's doing something, or whether it's a new food I'm eating, I want to know why it's going to help. And I think most guys are like that. I'm not unique in that sense, but I think a lot of the cliche stuff is kind of what can put you to the next level. And being involved in details and loving all the little details is what makes you great. I'm a big believer in that for sure.
Andy, on the detail side of things?
Yeah, I think it just really starts with just never being satisfied. Just having this concept that you're always looking for a reason why it might not work or why it's not good enough. You're anticipating a problem before a problem arises. And I think one of the most toxic mindsets, athletes, business, somebody in my profession, whatever that might be, is this ability to constantly try to praise yourself for the purpose of promoting yourself or to try to sell something that you're doing, because it actually kind of takes your mind away from looking for areas of opportunity. So my approach is always, what am I missing? What am I not seeing? What could potentially go wrong here? And looking at it from 3, 4, 5 different angles, and then you start to understand, okay, this could be a problem before it starts to become a problem.
Yeah.
And so collectively, when I'm working with other teams of professionals, I find a lot of great synergy when we're comfortable, criticizing ourselves and receiving criticism and sharing ideas and thoughts, and it doesn't offend anybody. And we use that just with this common mindset that we're all going to get better and we're all going to get to a goal when we're not really worried about how successful or how little successful we might be. It's not really about that. It's not about status. It's not about our self-worth. It just really becomes about the goal. And, there's no step that you're afraid to take because of that.
Yeah. So it's that danger of being evangelical about your own idea and falling in love with it. And then the moment you do that, then you put on blinders to like other opportunities or things that you can be improving on or whatever. Is there anything, is there any specific detail from a training perspective that when you found it or when you discovered it, you were like, oh, this isn't just another one of those like little 1% changes. This was like a really big shift in the way that you train athletes or
yeah, absolutely. My first NHL training camp, the general manager of the Florida Panthers that I got hired, I'm in my mid-20s, is Mike Keenan. He was a fairly well-known guy in hockey, been around a long time, and Iron Mike was his name. He wasn't exactly he was a confrontational individual.
The nickname held very true.
Yeah. So I'm a young guy, never worked in the minors, hadn't been in an NHL locker room before, and I was really big into the scientific approach with things. I wanted to really implement some testing at training camp and create some analysis and have a bit of an ability to maybe create individual profiles on what players needed or create an assessment that was a little bit more qualitative, and did a variety of tests that I put a lot of time and energy into and that were kind of gold standard in the physiology world. And just looking at the report that I had to go present to the general managers, some of the worst players in the training camp, that probably weren't even close to an NHL job, scored the best on the testing. And some of the really good players in the team were absolutely awful in the testing. And so he sort of just challenged me, and it was really hard to have that answer. And I had a decision to make at that time as a strength coach. I was going to start to make excuses and start to rationalize why what I was doing was good, or I could say, I'm missing something here, and I think most people would say, oh, well, they're just really skilled players, but, they can improve on these things. And I thought, no, it doesn't add up, like these guys that are really skilled players, like the things that they're doing out there are athletic in nature. there's a physiologic component behind that skill. And so there's something I'm not capturing, or there's deficiencies in these tests that don't necessarily relate, and it made me curious, and it humbled me in a way that drove me to ask more questions. So that was a pivotal moment for me.
Great. John, you brought up the details side of things.
I mean, for me, I'm all about the details. At Cizzle Brands, our president, Tucker Wright, actually coined the term, and I don't know if it's ever been used in business, but 1 foot putts, right? So we're not allowed to miss 1 foot putts, right? And I think that has to do with the details. You never take anything for granted, right? Am I personally a little over the top? Yeah, I see every single order that comes into the company on my cell phone. That's a bit much. Tucker takes a different approach where he looks at them at the end of the week. Yeah. Maybe I should get there one day, but for us, especially being in the early stages here, the details, not to sound cliche, but they really matter. And how we work towards them as a team. I've got a great team around me, people that I've worked with for 15 plus years. It's just stressing communication, right? Especially in this day and age, the work from home, everybody's on Zoom calls instead of in person. We really stress those relationships and that communication in the office, right? Like Anthony Mueller, CMO, he has a meeting called Let's Talk, right? Because he literally just wants to talk to everybody and make sure, hey, what's going on? And there's ideas that come from that. So I think, especially in this day and age, post-COVID business, you've got to keep those relationships up and that communication, and that's a far easier way of things not being missed for sure.
I want to switch gears and go back to the comment you made about creativity or imagination and whatnot. From my experience with working with, whether it's Kobe or some other really big superstar athletes, one of the things that they're very, very good at is they're very connected to their creative imagination in the way that they perform out on their court, their field, or whatever. Is that something that you identify with as well, Nathan? Like when you're out there, feeling like you do have a really great imagination for the way that you play the game, and again, not to put words in your mouth, it's always hard to say, yeah, I'm absolutely creative. But do you think that plays a part in separating someone away from other athletes that are out there?
Yeah, for me, I find like the way I do things leading up to a game and my process and how I get ready to play is what makes me creative. So I wouldn't say I'm the most creative-minded guy ever, but I like to think I do put in a lot of work away from the rink, at practices. And when I feel really prepared and I feel like I'm really ready to go, I find I am more confident, and I do feel like that's when I just play. Because I'm a believer that once you get to the rink on game day, all the work should be done by then. Yeah. The warm-up before you play is not going to save you. So everything that kind of goes into it before that allows me to feel confident and feel creative. But definitely when I start, flowing a little bit, I'm sure it's a common thing. Your brain kind of turns off and you just play, and that's definitely the best feeling you can get.
So, but you just mentioned your process of getting there. So, like, what are like three or five important dominoes that you like to drop in your game prep or game day that are a part of McKinnon getting out there and giving you the opportunity to play at your peak?
There's so many little things. I think just eating really well for me helps me a lot. I like to read. I find reading really calms me down. I'm a pretty fiery guy, and just even a book like that really catches my eye with that title. Just things that put me into that process-based mindset. I find you can't force a hat trick, you can't force a big night, you can't force a win. It just kind of just comes with playing well and playing the right way, and so that helps me a lot. And obviously, dialed in on training, and then I have an amazing treatment guy, Marcin, who I spend hours and hours with, and he's definitely a lifesaver for me as well. So,
do you have a specific time that you always want to be getting to the ice or the rink before the game starts? Like, is it pretty dialed in that way?
No, I'm not. No. Honestly, I'm not super time. I find I just honestly a lot of different games will change up my warm up, will change up the way I do things just on how I'm feeling.
Yeah.
I try to be flexible. You know, I don't want to be too regimented, and I think that is a good way to be, is having a routine, but I also, you know, don't want to get too stiff and not allow change and adapt a little
Being
bit as
adaptable.
well.
Yeah.
So.
Nathan just brought up the importance of, you know, nutrition. Andy, from your perspective, things have changed so much in the way that athletes fuel themselves. I mean, you know, you go back to the Philadelphia Flyers back in the 70s. I mean, they were smoking cigarettes in the locker room. That doesn't happen nowadays. From your side of things, can you actually tell when an athlete does not have their nutrition dialed in?
Can you tell when an athlete's smoking cigarettes?
Yeah. Yeah, we don't get a lot of cigarette smokers. Maybe it'll circle back like everything.
Let's mark that one down.
Yeah,
It's not a lot of smokers.
We'll
You haven't worked with the Italian national soccer team.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. You know, there's a few Phil Espositos maybe still in our game, but I'll use that example because I still remember the Canada Cup, you know, footage from that team and playing pool and smoking cigars, you know, before the game. It's changed a lot. But I would say you can. I mean, everything that you do, mentally and physically, to be honest, affects every system in your body. So you can see a lot of things from players, from their skin tone to their tissue, to the way that they move, to the way that they sustain focus, to the way that they sustain energy.
What robs that from something? Like, is everybody the same? Like, if there was a staple thing that everyone can be doing, that's a foundational piece of fueling the body in the right way. Like, what are people might be lacking, or what could they do that's right?
Yeah, I think we have a tendency to look at things in terms of like, what's something I can buy and add, or what's a thing that I can take. And I think the starting point is really, you're drinking fluids every day anyways. You know, you're drinking, you know, if you're an athlete, between 2 and 4 liters of something every day, right? And you're eating food every day. So that's just a starting point. So just, you know, that's not going to change. That's a low-hanging fruit for me, you know. So just identifying what you're putting into your body on an everyday basis. I would start with that, as opposed to, hey, what's something I can like add, you know, or a supplement. Is just, let's look at the foundational, fundamental things that I'm doing. And I think it just really boils down to quality. You know, we have a lot of just, you know, we have a lot of industry, you know, that has a tendency to create certain things, you know, that that end up being sold, and, you know, that sort of commercialization process forms our understanding of how it works. And so I think just the quality of how something's grown, what types of things are put into it, you know, whether that's artificial or whether that's natural, and understanding that process is really big. And I'm very fascinated at looking at different countries around the world and different cultures, and, you know, how health is impacted just by the simple, you know, commercialization of the things that they're putting in their body.
John, why quench? Like, why hydration? Why is this a product that you think that the market needs?
Yeah, I'll take it back to just growing up, right? You went to school with a juice box, and to get out of class for a couple minutes, you'd go to the water fountain. Like, that was hydration. And I mean, I'm sure you grew up the same way, and I know you did as well. And I think it's just still untapped. I mean, people are consuming energy drinks, sugary sports drinks all day long. And for some reason, people think it's okay. People are more privy on the food side than they are on the beverage side. It's okay because, you know, I'm drinking it, I'm not eating it, which I find almost bizarre. So to be able to innovate in this space and to, you know, to do the research that Andy did in coming up with all our products, not just Quench. I mean, he spoke to over 100 of the best nutritionists in all of pro sports. He went to Europe with, you know, top soccer teams, what have you. So I think it's just such a regular part of everybody's daily routine that kind of gets taken for granted in our society. So if we can come up with something, which we have, that's that much more superior and good for you than everything else out there, I think that message over time will win at the end of the day. So it's a space that's still very ripe to this day. And if you look at a lot of the brands that we compete with that are out there, I'll just say it, they got shitty products, right? So, you know, we're very proud of what we do, and there's nothing that we wouldn't make, that we wouldn't give to our children or our parents
let alone, Nate.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Shifting to, setbacks that happen. Nathan, as the leader of the Avalanche, it's not only you navigating the setbacks that might happen, but as a leader, what are some of the things that you try to do with the team, whether it's side conversations, whatever, like what's worked in helping to get and corral all of the skill and the talent on the team to get them back on track when when things might be moving in a wrong direction? And I'd love to hear from you if it's so after the game, and then even during a game, if there's anything that you say or do that's different than those times when things are just rolling.
Yeah, I think when you're winning, there's not a whole lot of talking to each other about anything really. But yeah, I think when you're losing, just trying to find ways, like productive ways to get out of it. We're lucky in Colorado to have Gabe Landeskog and when we won, Andrew Cogliano, as leaders of the team also. And, I think an example is just, we were up 3-1 against Tampa in the finals and lost game 5 on home ice. And it was a crazy feeling. We all bike after the game. And being on the bike when we could be celebrating the cup was depressing. So we had a team meeting the night before game 6 in Tampa. And I think it was great. It was just felt like it was just us. We talked with each other and we just decided if we're going to lose together. And it kind of takes a lot of the pressure off, not thinking about the result. We're just together in the process of things, and we trusted our game that we could, and we had an amazing game in game 6, a 2-1 win. And so I think communication's key. I think when guys, before game 5, it was a heavy feeling, but no one really said anything. I don't think anyone really wanted to bring it up, but I think just talking about things.
Was it a heavy feeling because you were 1 win away? Like, is that what we that extra thing?
Yeah. It was very heavy. When you're never in that position before, you're driving to the game and there's thousands of people in the street already there before we are even. And it was just so exciting. Warm-ups, it sold out. It's so cool. It's so cool. Such a big stage, but obviously we lost that game, and I think in our heads we really wanted to, obviously we wanted to win it, but you start thinking, okay, what's the celebration going to be like, and all that stuff. Andy just went through that with Florida. It's hard to get that 4th one, and but yeah, like I said, we had a great meeting, and a lot of guys spoke, and it was very cool. Do
you mind saying what did it sound like then? And then when people are saying you say the guy spoke, what's the content of that look like? Is it about, hey, we're going to do this together, or?
Yeah, well, I think it was just we honestly just started seeing how awful we felt before game 5. Everybody. Yeah. Even guys who barely speak were just I felt horrible.
Really?
Oh yeah, it was hard. I don't know if every team can relate to that, but a lot of teams lose when they're up 3-1. I think Pittsburgh did against San Jose. Obviously Florida, it's tough, I said, to win that 4th one, and it just makes it a little lighter as well that we're all in the same boat, and that's when we decided to have the mindset of just, if we're going to lose, we're going to do it together, and that's it.
But you just brought up something. So it takes someone to topple the first domino of being, you talked about vulnerability before. It takes the one person, the one leader, to go, hey guys, that was and then everyone else just goes, oh my God, me too. And then there's a release that happens in the room. Is that kind of what it ended up being like? Yeah,
Andrew Cogliano got up. He's an amazing speaker. Not many people know him, I guess. He's a depth guy, but just someone that, you really need to win, and obviously with Landeskog as well. Yeah. But Cogs got up and made an amazing speech, and then everyone else just kind of started opening up as well, and it was cool. I don't think I'll ever be part of something like that again. Yeah. But it was really cool to hear guys, say how they felt and how bad they felt, I guess. So yeah, it lightened things up for sure.
But there's also one other like little detail about you guys getting to Tampa for that game 6, and you showed up and your room number was 87.
Yeah.
You even mentioned that.
Yeah.
Where you just was like, oh, this is actually kind of meant to be. Can you kind of talk about that for other people, like why 87, why that's important, or just?
Yeah, well, we come to these Vail camps every year, and Cogs and Sid are really tight. So Cogs said he's our mythical creature, or something like that. It was so funny. Like I said, like anyone knows Sid, he's got this aura about him. He's one of the best ever.
Yeah.
So I think it was like 87 was my room number or something. So
Yeah.
it was awesome. Yeah, I showed Cogs we get a little envelope. I'm like, check this out. It was great though. Yeah.
It was just funny seeing your comment after you win the cup, where you said, oh, when I saw that, I was like, oh, this is meant
we're
to
good.
be.
Yeah, we're good.
We're good. You know, for you, when it comes to helping an athlete move through setbacks, like, you know, obviously for most guys when they're coming to you, it could be tweaks or injuries, and you know, the people who navigate those, move through those recoveries faster or better, or come back, you know, more confident, stronger. Any kind of hallmarks of the ways that they handle that?
Yeah, I think perspective is really important in those situations. Like I would say, you know, through my 30 years around being in sports, teams, individual players in team sports, individuals in Olympic sports, across the board, without question, a majority of an athlete's best performance comes on the back of their highest adversity, consistently across the board.
Any example
athletes and teams
or story that you got?
Yeah, I mean, starting off, I mean, there's numerous ones. Like starting off, I worked with a swimmer named Dara Torres, who at the time when I was working with her had the most medals of any female in Olympic history. I think she had 12 medals. She competed at the Olympics, 5 Olympics in swimming, and had competed at the age of 41. I think the next oldest person in her event was 26, and she won 3 medals at that Olympics. And 5 weeks before the Olympics, her coach, you know, she had a lot of confidence in, and was kind of her rock in terms of like her strategy and, you know, everything that she was doing to be finely tuned to be ready to race in Beijing in 2008. It got very sick, and he was dying, and wasn't able to go to the Olympics with her. And I think just the stress and the emotion that came with that, she felt like a brick in the water, I think was the word that she mentioned to me.
Yeah.
And could barely lift her arms, and had to navigate that. And then that probably was the greatest accomplishment of her career at 41, to go and do that. She set numerous American records, almost won the gold in the 50 freestyle, lost by 1/1000th of a second, I think, you know, to a 16-year-old.
Yeah.
So that was pretty incredible. I used the example with, you know, that start that the Penguins had, you know, and that Sid had. That was the worst probably stretch in his career. And that followed with 2 Stanley Cups, 2 Conn Smythes, a World Cup MVP. So the worst adversity of his career followed by the greatest stretch of performance in his career.
Yeah.
So I've just seen it over and over, and I'm not surprised to hear Nate, you know, talk about that Game 5 in that way, because it is this call to elevate. You know, you need some stimulus that tells you, I have to elevate. I have to rise above where I am, and then it's the ability to meet that stimulus, you know, and that to me is what makes sports, you know, so great.
Anything that makes that easier for someone to rise to that?
Yeah, I think it's the excitement that knowing when you're in that moment, something great's going to happen. So it's like we know, yeah, this is awesome.
Yeah.
You know, this is awesome.
An attitude of positive expectancy that's there.
It's just this knowing intrinsically something good's about to happen.
Yeah.
You know, I think when you get into that space, then you get excited about it.
John, I mean, business that's filled with setbacks, it's, you know, almost you can schedule it daily. How do you navigate that as someone who's also responsible for a lot of people's paychecks that go home, you know? And I know that you've got an incredible drive to create something that's very special. So setbacks for you, like any really specific one that stood out, and how you navigated that?
Yeah, I mean, after 36 holes with you over the last 2 days, I think I've figured out that, quite honestly, anger's my best trigger.
I love it.
Straight up.
It is.
And, I enjoy being down in those matches as opposed to being up for whatever weird reason. But anyway, there's been a bunch of setbacks along the way. And in a weird way, I enjoy those moments, right? That's when the stakes become the highest. That's when your team comes together, to Nate's point, just in a different world. And that's when you find out what people are really made of, right? So
you were talking to me as we were golfing about a brand deal, maybe the one with Des.
Yeah, Des. Yeah,
that was
a cool experience. I can shed some light on that for sure. So previous brand, we were getting some traction in the U.S. Obviously, the Cowboys, America's team, and Des Bryant was just a lightning rod, right? And we were getting some, specifically, we're getting traction in Dallas-Fort Worth area. So we reached out to some of his people because we heard he'd been consuming some of our products, and the pricing came back on what it would take to do a deal with Des, and I was like, why is this? This is not enough money. Like, what's going on here, right? Mm-hmm. And I dug further down, his personal trail and all that, and he had some off the field issues. This guy's a lightning rod. Let's do it, right? So we get down there, and the shoot's supposed to be an hour and a half, and it was 5 hours. It was a 5-hour shoot. Des is playing basketball. He's talking to people. He's crying at one point. It was the most personable, best guy. Like, he did so much for us at that time. And there came a point where his agent had passed away, and he was going to move to Rock Nation Sports. And they're trying to get him new deals, and they don't care about our deal because they're not commissioned on that. And what have you. And there's actually this legendary meeting on Monday Night Football in the New York Giants end zone between Jay-Z and Jerry Jones. And this is what it was over. It was over the Des Bryant contract situation. So Rock's getting him deals within our category. We're getting pissed off. It's becoming a bit of a mess. And one night I'm late working at the office, and I get a call. Is this John Salenza? This is Marilyn from Mr. Jones's office. So I'm like, I'm a sports fan, right? Jerry Jones? She's like, Mr. Jones would like to speak with you. Oh, yeah, okay, sure. Jerry Jones comes on the freaking phone, right? And he starts talking to me about how he's a big proponent of athlete endorsements, and he talked to me specifically about the Des situation. Like, I'm in shock at this point. Like, how does Jerry Jones know what's going on with our, startup business and Des Bryant? And he was fully on point. And he said to me, "Listen, it's probably not going to end up well here, but what we're going to do is you're going to endorse Sean Lee, one of our team captains, for X amount of money, and our team loves your products. We're going to buy that back, what you pay Sean in product, and I'm going to invite you to our training camp." And he said, "I think next year in the draft, we're going to go after an offensive stud. And whoever that is, he's yours for the next endorsement. Sean will be a 1-year deal." I'm thinking to myself, this is okay. Yes, Mr. Jones, no problem. Sure enough, Marilyn reaches out. We go to California, and I'm literally kicking field goals in my socks with Dan Bailey. Like, it was bizarre. And we did the shoot with Sean. It was wild. So the next year, I'm watching the NFL draft at home in Toronto, and they draft Zeke. So I get a call the very next day, Rocky Arsenal, Zeke's agent. "Hey, John, so I heard we're doing a deal." Like, this is crazy. Sure enough, back to Cowboys camp, kicking field goals in my socks, and we're shooting Ezekiel Elliott. It was crazy. So that's just kind of a fun.
That's just an example of being very flexible and adaptable as the game's happening. In business, you talked about being adaptable.
I've been adaptable, but that was all Jerry Jones.
Yeah.
Like, I was like, I'm going to march this guy's beat. He knows what he's doing, right?
Yeah.
So Jerry dealt with that adversity for us, quite honestly. Yeah. And there's still a great relationship to this day.
All right. We're going to transition here into a segment where we've got some of the top creators in the world of hockey. We're going to bring them in, and they're going to fire some questions over at the Experts Way. We'll be back in just a few seconds.
Nathan McKinnon.
Sports performance specialist, Andy O'Brien.
Learning about the whole idea idea of strength and conditioning and how it can help his performance.
CEO of Cizzle Brands, John Salento.
Todd Herman is an entrepreneur, a coach, a mentor.
Athletes, public figures, leaders from all around the world. I've been doing this for 22 years. Specifically, I've been building alter egos and secret identities since 2003.
Back. We've got Coach Chippy here. Chippy, you've got a huge following that's happened in a very short amount of time on socials. I'm sure you've got some things buzzing in your head. Mm-hmm. So what are some, what's some questions you got for the crew?
Yeah, I actually was listening to the mindset stuff, mindset talk. And for me right now, as someone who's new to business, trying to grow in the space, trying to figure out life, like what, you guys have all been successful, like what motivates you to continue to create or continue to do what you do? Because once you achieve that level of success, like what motivates you to stay there? Like I know, Nate, you won a cup. What motivates you to continue to want to work every day, show up to the camps and continue to grind when you've already seen the success? Like what's the motivation?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of fear in there of just going like this, to be honest. I think every day I feel I need to improve, and I don't even know why. I love the grind. I love the process of trying to get better every day, and I feel blessed that that's in me. See other guys, sometimes they lose some motivation, but maybe I will one day, but it's going to be pretty far off, I think. So definitely lots of fire still there.
I love that.
Yeah, I've gone through probably some ebbs and flows in my career. Tend to carry a heavy plate, got my hands in a few different things, and then, we'll kind of take a little step back and kind of recoup and take a new project on and stuff like that. And yeah, definitely, you take a little breather and get away from something, and it's not too long before you start to crave just being able to lose yourself in the pursuit of something that really drives you, and you just get so much fulfillment from it. So I think it's just being in, it's more the pursuit of something than the destination. So it's less about, for me, it's less about the, whatever it is that I'm trying to get to, and a little bit more about being able to just work every day towards something, and then whenever you have it, you're just looking for that next thing.
And then how much is it like purpose? I'll get to you too, John. Like purpose, like maintaining your purpose. Like does that change? Like I know for me, my purpose was to make people laugh. Like if I can make one person laugh today, I've had a good day. And now it's like, does that change? Do you still have the same purpose as when you started? Like, has that changed at all?
For me, yeah, it has a little bit. It has. I think as a strength coach, it's really interesting. You're not a hockey player. Hockey player, it's very clear. You want to win a Stanley Cup, right? As a strength coach, it's amazing to be, part of a team. I mean, I'm so grateful for having the opportunity to do that and to be involved in a team that won a championship. But it is hard to find purpose sometimes. I think for me, it just boils down to what would I be doing, if I won $1 billion tomorrow and never had to worry about anything. I never needed to do anything. What would my day look like? And I'd probably be reading, learning, listening to things, sharing things with people, helping people, trying to understand things, satisfying my curiosity to try to understand how things work. And so, I think it's just finding ways to do that, finding avenues that I can do that, and it's just kind of boils down to some happiness for me. So it's a little bit less about like a specific purpose and more about just like what really lights me up, and then losing myself in that.
Well, I'll answer on this one too, and it comes over time. But when you think about like your home, what's the most honest place that you'll ever find in a house? It's it's your pillow. So, because
close.
you said my walk-in closet. So it's the pillow. The pillow is the most honest place because it's where you take stock of your day. Like, and did I play the game that I wanted to play today? Like, did I do things the way that I wanted? Or you replay an incident that you had with someone. It could be like, I got three kids. Did I show up the way that I wanted to as a dad?
And so, like for me in business, my mission is to create as many smiling pillows as I possibly can. And that is, so that means for me, I need to constantly be driven, and you were talking before about not settling on an evangelical idea and constantly looking for whether it's a more efficient way to share an idea or to get something across to people, and always getting better and better and better, because I don't want my name associated with someone who goes, I really wish I didn't meet that guy, or I didn't like listen to that content, or I didn't listen to that talk. And so I have it anchored down to like just one kind of single idea of like, how can I create more smiling pillows for people so that they feel good about their day. Johnny?
Yeah, for me, I love sports growing up. I love the competitive nature of it. And once that was done, business was the next thing to kind of get competitive with, right? I love keeping score. I don't like playing in anything where they don't keep score. That just fires me up, the whole winning and losing and the camaraderie thing. And it's also like Todd, I have 3 kids. My dad's an entrepreneur, set a great example. My parents both did. And I want to set that example for my kids too, to let them see that work ethic for sure.
Chippy, thanks for sitting down. We're going to call in now another creator. We got Chippy. Austin. Austin Alexander.
Yeah.
Roll on in. He's wearing his game day jersey.
Yeah. Oh, it's my clothing brand.
Yeah. All right, so I'll give it to you.
Oh yeah. Okay, this is interesting. As an athlete, I don't know how maybe this applies, and I'm interested to hear. But how do you, in a world of copycats, and in a world of everybody's doing the same thing, how do you distinguish yourself? Whether it's a brand or like how you're performing, like what separates you from the rest of the league or, the rest of the market?
Well, I don't know. I just love being around amazing players. Like when I get to skate with Connor McDavid here, I just love it. I love watching him play. It's so awesome. Obviously with Sid, and there's so many amazing players out here. I think playing the compare games is tough. If I was going to compare myself to McDavid every day, I wouldn't be very happy every day. So I try to stay away from that.
Were you happy today, Nate?
Oh, I was thrilled, yeah. Thrilled today. But yeah, I just think kind of just doing your best for me. I know it sounds silly, but trying to be the best player I can possibly be and see where that gets me. So that's where I'm at. Yeah.
Yeah. I think for me, what was the question again?
How do you separate yourself from your brand or yourself? Yeah. What separates you from?
Probably the take that I've always had is I've never really tried to compare myself to somebody else. I actually, sometimes I see a little bit of that as an insecurity at times. People like more concerned about what other people are doing or how they're doing it. And for me, I'm more concerned with just growth. So if I see something that I'm doing and I can do it better, then I really enjoy that. And I'm not overly concerned at what else is happening. It's really just kind of an internal process for me.
To add to that, is there special approaches that you take that you would say separate you from other people?
I think what is separate for me, it's really hard to say because I'm not paying a lot of attention to what others are, so it's hard to say how I separate. But what I've really valued over the years is having a wide lens. So when you are really passionate about something and you're in kind of a maniacal pursuit about things, it requires like an ultra finite lens. Like you see the 10 feet in front of you so crystal clear that sometimes you lose that 10,000 foot view. And so I've really gained a lot from stepping back and trying to see the big picture and trying to understand the relevance of that 10 feet in front of me to the 10,000 feet around it, and the interrelationships of all the moving parts within an ecosystem. It's kind of been like the lens that I've had in my approach.
Interesting.
Yeah, competitive advantage would be family and friends, right? I'm fortunate enough that they just believe and get behind whatever it is that we're doing. And that support system's incredible. And then from there, it becomes the willingness to try things, right? Like, you know, we're coming out with a couple products that, you know, everybody's like, what are you guys doing, right? Like, we're coming out with sport pasta, right? And, you know, it's an incredible product. And like, what are you guys doing? No, we're going to bring a sport pasta to market. Like, trying things that people haven't done before in unconventional ways. And, you know, that really cuts through the clutter of things, right? It cuts through your everyday different things that you've seen. Like, even doing something like this is very different to an extent for a brand or a business. So just you know, competitive advantage would be that support system, and then that gives you the willingness to try things that other won't, and that's where a lot of that creativity comes from, right? So even in the launch with the Quench brand, right? You know, 5 creators help bring this thing to life, along with Nate and Andy, and you know, here we are already, and like talk about, you know, us and you and the guys, like that's a new way of doing things, right? And you guys are all cutting edge in your own way, right? So just being willing to try new things and have no fear when you're doing it and really believe in what you're doing. That's how we look to cut through the clutter for sure.
I would say for myself, and then just even getting the chance to live between the 6 inches of the years of clients and stuff over the years is high levels of self-awareness, like really understanding how you're built and what, like yours, you've got this intensity thing that's within you that is really hard for someone else to try and go and duplicate if that's not one of the core things that drives them forward. And so I think about, you know, you can't beat me on my treadmill. Like I have my treadmill built specifically for me. So if someone's looking at, oh, I'm going to do the exact same thing as Todd, well, no, because I mean, there's one day of my month where I'm literally on coaching calls for 14 hours straight. And my wife has seen me do that for 12 years, and she's like, you go in with the exact same energy at 6 a.m. as when you leave at 8 p.m. And I'm like, yeah, because that's my treadmill. There's nothing I enjoy more than talking to amazing human beings and trying to help, you know, them navigate towards whatever their goals are. And you can even see it on my Apple Watch data. Like, my heart rate drops the moment I get into like coaching mode with people. Yeah. So I think just that always being reflective and thinking about, okay, well, what makes me tick? What, like, being aware of that, it really becomes a great shield from that, you know, comparison is the thief of joy, you know, comparing yourself against other people. And like that's how they're built. That's what they're going to do. But I'm built differently.
Right.
So cool. Thank you.
Thanks, Austin.
All right. Next up, Mr. Pavel Barber. Again, thanks for joining us.
Of course.
What do you got?
Yeah, I think, you know, the fear of failure is so immense. I train kids all the time, and they're always constantly trying to avoid failure. I think we all realize over time that that's where the most growth happens. So I think just in your guys' careers, how did your relationship with failure change as you evolved in your crafts?
Yeah, well, I think I had a great first season. I won Rookie of the Year. Then my next 3 years were a little hairy. So yeah, I was first overall. I didn't want to be a bust. I didn't want to let down the organization that took me over anybody else that they could have. So I guess you know, people try to, you know, pretend fear doesn't exist, but it can really drive you if you use it correctly. It can also not be a great thing, but I think if there's always going to be a little bit of that there, and you know, for me, I don't think it's going to go away. I just think it's good to be a little bit unsure of yourself all the time, and I think that's when you do get better and open yourself up to trying different things. So maybe I got a little bit off the question, but yeah, I definitely think it can help.
Yeah, for me, I definitely had lots of situations where I'm afraid of a certain result, or afraid of, in my profession, it's just all reputation, right? So you're worried about, it's an outcome, you have an athlete that gets injured, you have somebody that's not successful, or you fail at something, right? And I think I've learned to see that as sort of an awareness piece that drives you, but I wouldn't necessarily call it fear. You know, you kind of take it from a fear-based state, and then emotionally you kind of turn it into motivation. And so there's a little emotional shift there that allows that to make it work for you. So I think it's the kind of awareness that could happen. You know, it's not the result I want. How can I use that to drive me, but almost lessening the emotional state so that you can start to use that energy and move forward with it.
Yeah, perhaps it's a great question. I think sometimes when we accomplish certain things, and we talk about this at our business, and Ronan from our team talks about celebrating our wins, and that's important. But a lot of the times when we get there, it's the relief of not failing, right? Ronan's standing right behind you, so it's hard for me not to have this conversation with him. But it's more like, okay, we did it, we're good. Okay, quick break, and then what's next, right? And instead of celebrating those wins, so that fear becomes such a motivating factor because you don't want to fail, and you don't want to let down, your ecosystem. For Nate, it was the organization and family and friends, and for us, it's our organization and our family and friends as well, because everybody's so proud of what we do, right? So that failure and fear of is such a huge motivator for sure.
I would say it's also about reps. Like failure and failing becomes less and less dominant as something that will haunt you when you have a lot of reps of failing. Like, because that along that pathway, there's a story and a narrative that you're building of, oh yeah, like I had that setback or I had that failure, 2 years ago. But in between time, I've gotten better, I've grown. And so the more I think that there should be more of a mindset of to seek it out. Like one of the things that we do with our kids every night is one of the questions we ask them is, what's something that you did today that you failed at? Because I want to anesthetize my kids to the idea of failure and failing, because what they're going to tell you is when they're little, oh, I was reaching for the monkey bars. I was trying to get to that other bar. And then we respond with, and then what happened? And then, oh, I just got back up on the platform and then I tried it again. So they're learning that, oh, failing is just a part of the process of like learning. And so I just think that if someone actually took stock of their life and their career or whatever, and they actually logged how many failures that they had, they would actually feel very good about themselves because you're here today. You didn't ultimately quit. So my thoughts. Yeah.
I got one more quick one for you, Nate. I religiously watched those training camp videos of you and Crosby, and you were saying, if there's one area you could get better at and learn from is those corner battles with him. How have those corner battles been going with him over the years? Are you making some...
Not much progress. No? He's about this high off the ice, and his legs are this big.
Yeah.
I'm trying to get at him.
Not much you can do, eh?
It's tough. Yeah, it's tough, but it's great. We're like pretty different players, so we're pretty different areas of needs, I'd say, off the ice as well. So it's fun. It's fun working with someone who's a lot different. Things we need to work on. But yeah, I definitely get a lot of tips from him on that. Yeah.
I love it. All right.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Great question.
Sure.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Barb.
All right. Next in is Swaggy P. Rolling in. Hot. Here we go.
Got it. All right. What's up, guys? You guys touched on it a ton here, is passion. And, I've seen you playing games, but watching you over the past 2 days, I can tell you're super passionate. You're super passionate with, the field work and getting these guys' bodies ready. You with the business, but part of growth is realizing something you guys are not good at. And what would something be on the ice, off the ice, in business that you guys would change?
That's a good question. I think literally everything all the time. If I feel slow one day, I get a little squirrely. Obviously I just think every rep, you get kind of attached to it, and you just want to be perfect out there. And we know it's impossible, but that's the goal. So I guess there's not like one specific thing. Fundamentally, I wouldn't say, but just getting better as a whole every day is kind of my thing for sure.
Yeah, it's a great question. Probably for me, it's interesting, and there's a certain period of the year, July, August, where I'm spending a lot of one-on-one time, particularly with Sid and Nate here. And when I get into those sessions, I just have so much respect for these guys, and I don't take anything for granted that every little session that we do, no matter how trivial it is or how basic it is or how complicated it is, I'm walking away with sort of a reflection on how that went. And most days there's things that I could have done better, you know, for myself, whether it was prepare a little bit more or whether it was explain things a little bit better, whether it was being a little bit more creative or, you know, taking time to maybe adjust things quicker. You know, there's always something, right? So that's pretty much a constant process for me to criticize what I'm doing. But that has ultimately, I've found a way to do that in a healthy way, you know, where it doesn't hold me back, it drives me forward. So yeah, I think I review almost everything I do. And a lot of that just becomes because I have so much gratitude for the position that I've been put in and so much respect for these athletes that I just don't want to let them down.
Yeah, for me, Swag, it's I need to be better with time. I'm kind of like, when something happens, it needs to be resolved right away. You know, like I need to do a better job of just, sometimes time can work to your advantage, right? You get time to reflect, think, whether it's a negotiation or whatever it is that's going on in life or business. And, you know, I need to get better at, not everything needs to be resolved right that moment, and just to sometimes take a step back. And I've got a great team around me, right? So, you know, use those resources to conversate and ideate for a quick second, right? And a couple of times that I have been able to do that, we've been in a far better position, right? So just managing that expectation, for sure.
I'd say for myself, it's actually storytelling. And I know that I'm good at, but you talked about, you know, the ability for Cogliano to stand up game 6 in the locker room and just do a powerful speech to the group, which then topples some different dominoes. You know, I just think about that. I'm always improving on that, but the art of like storytelling and knowing how to tell a good story to the right person, like if it's a one-on-one conversation or if it's a group of people, just something I was always working on, because at the end of the day, emotion is what moves people to action. Like you can give people all the logical reasons in the world, but fundamentally, you know, being good at storytelling. And if we really care about the ideas that we're trying to share with people or the products or, you know, trying to lead people to another cup, we have to capture them at the heart. So I'm always trying to work on storytelling. So
yeah, and I think like what we've all touched on is that the passion is going to, you know, just push it to the next level. Like when you care so much or you care so much about your athletes, that's what's going to take it over the top to continue to be on top. Yeah. More of a comment.
Yeah. Swaggy, you're a champ, man.
Yeah. Thanks, Swaggy.
You're a peach. All right, last but not least here is Coach Jeremy rolling in.
What's up, Jer?
All right, man. What do you got?
All right, I got a few. I got a little rapid fire, a few questions from the stream. We'll save that for the end.
Okay.
First off, I just want to say I was listening to your mentality about winning. It's great to win some individual accolades, but you like to win as a team. I just got to say, Quench, we got a team here. We got a wagon, and I'm just looking forward to winning with you guys as a team. And it's just way better to win with a group of guys. And I'm just throwing up to the stream. We got a group of guys here. Quench is about to take over. I'm putting it out there.
Awesome, Jared. Love that.
First question. You said you're a big reader. Looking for a few book recommendations.
Yeah, my favorite one I've read is by Rick Rubin, A Creative Act. Yeah,
I just finished it.
Oh, you did? Cool.
Yeah.
So I don't.
It's on my bedside table right now.
Yeah, nice. Okay.
My favorite message in that book is just to keep trying new things, and if it doesn't work, then just throw it away.
I like it.
So I think to get better, you have to change, and he illustrates that so well. And I think listening to the book is better than reading it. Just hearing his voice is so good. So
I got the Audible on the same page as you.
Yeah.
Time is valuable, so you're probably popping in on the bus or driving.
In my car or whatever I can do. So that's my favorite one for sure.
Amazing. Might as well grab a few, go down the list.
Yeah, a few down the list. I've got many. I read a lot of books that are kind of like in my craft, but one that was kind of like a curveball I've thrown at a few people, and they've thanked me for it. But there was a book called The Happiest Man on Earth. Yeah, it's an incredible read. It was by a prisoner at Auschwitz.
Wow.
You know, who lived to over 100, and just gives incredible perspectives of his experience there, what it was like, and how you just frame gratitude, and you have this ability to use gratitude for certain things that we all take for granted to really create happiness. And that was really moving. I recommend it for anybody.
That's great. Yeah. Something that I think people always say, surround yourself with great people.
Yeah.
And some people aren't really in a position to surround themselves with great people. But if you can get the books of great people and listen to those or read them, right? And you are surrounding yourself with great people in that way. So I think that like books are just so powerful. I love that one. Rebecca, John.
Shoe Dog.
Yeah.
Shoe Dog. If you haven't read Shoe Dog, you should read Shoe Dog. My truth there is, Jared, I have a stack of 15 books next to my bed, and I haven't read them.
No.
And my wife thinks it's hysterical, but I promise to read Alter Ego by Todd Herman from start to finish.
Okay.
But yeah, Shoe Dog's my favorite. Read it twice, but I could do a better job of that, being honest.
You just got to get the Audible and just listen when you're when you're driving. Todd?
I would say a book that I get a lot of people to read is Seeking Wisdom from Darwin to Munger. And it's basically unpacking the mental models and frameworks of one of the great thinkers of the last 80 years, Charlie Munger. And it's a great way of creating kind of a lattice work in your own mind of useful ways that you can not get caught up too much in the emotion of things and make just better decisions. So it's a bit of an obscure book, but it's there's thousands of them. So.
All right, Andy, we were talking yesterday, and you are just dialed in on helping the best be even better. And I asked you, what's kind of like the low-hanging fruit that the rest of us can use to feel better and not just perform, but just there's so much garbage out there, I think, that anyone can benefit from your knowledge. So like 3 things that people can do just to feel better on a day-to-day.
Yeah, I think the 3 things that I mentioned was, the first was alcohol. I think alcohol is just kind of, it's out there. I think we accept it a little bit more than we should. I think it can be a root cause of a lot of problems for people, even when it doesn't become excessive. I think it's just something that's not great for you. So it's no different than putting anything else that's no great in your body. I think it's a dangerous trap to feel like it's all good, because it's not really all good, even in a low amount. There's actually quite a bit of research to show that even at a very, very low amount, 1 to 2 drinks a week is actually quantifiably worse for you than 0 drinks a week. So like even in low amounts. So I think that's something we need more awareness of, is the impact of alcohol on your health. The second is sleep. So sleep is elusive for people. I think that it probably most people know that it's important. But I think you have to prioritize it, and you have to learn the things that prime your circadian rhythms, and the things that you do nutritionally, and things you do behaviorally, the thoughts that enter into your head that influence sleep. So just constantly evaluating things you're doing and how that might impact your sleep. It's a powerful tool, and it can impact a lot of things mentally and physically. And then the third thing is just, I think, just the refined carbohydrates. I'm not anti-carbohydrate. I definitely recommend them to athletes. I use them myself in certain scenarios. But I think in our society we get a lot of the refined carbohydrates, the artificial sweeteners, the sugars, the refined grains that we use in our society. I think we just get overexposed to that. And I've seen that for a lot of athletes. It can be pretty addictive, actually, and it can be really hard to eliminate once you go overboard on those things.
So if the general population drinks water, eliminates the alcohol, go to bed on a good time, and easy on the sugar, I think the whole world would be a better place.
I'd say that's a safe bet.
A lot more happier, healthier people, yeah?
Yeah.
All right. And I think, Nate, you're on the no alcohol, or you're on the...
Yeah.
Oh.
I think in the season I don't really touch it, but I definitely... I have a couple drinks in the summer for sure. Yeah.
Got let loose every once in a while, but that's a lot of control. You're in control when you can just say no. You're like, I'm not going to have this. You're focused, right? Yeah, I think that's important. John, heading down to you. Starting up Team Quench. What are you doing right now to absolutely crush it? What do you think is the most important thing that you're doing right now with Quench to take it to the next level?
Brand awareness, for sure. Brand awareness. So, starting, I think it's a week from now, it's back to hockey for all the youth leagues, and we have 2,500 youth team deals in place that no one knows about. So you're going to see Quench patches absolutely everywhere.
Love it.
And a lot of these organizations, it's not monetary. They just want the best product for the kids.
Heck yeah.
Right? And a lot of those are parent-led organizations that are, we talked about the spit chair, that are making the right decisions. So it's definitely, yeah, we have relationships obviously in sports, but it's based on the efficacy of the product that's, Andy's created.
Yeah. Love to hear it. And we're taking over. This is the first full season into hockey. We're just getting started. We got an amazing squad here. So it's just going to be everywhere within a year. We'll go rapid fire over to Nathan. So my brand is How to Hockey. I started it years back because just to help anyone anywhere be able to learn how to play hockey. I was making YouTube videos just teaching people how to stick handle and wrist shot, take a wrist shot. So I have a few kids that are on the stream. They're asking questions. We'll do rapid fire for the followers at home. Number one, how many shots did you take a day when you were younger? Were you out there just ripping pucks?
Yeah, I was. I entered this contest when I was a kid. It was like who could shoot the most pucks. It was online, and some kid had like 100,000 pucks, and I decided he was cheating. But yeah, so I definitely loved it. Me and my dad would just it's a great way to hang out. Honestly, we'd be there for a couple hours and just hanging out, shooting pucks together.
You're just ripping pucks with your dad?
Yeah, he wouldn't be shooting, but
chilling.
Yeah, he'd be throwing pucks to me. I'd bat it out of the air or work on my backhand, or it was just fun. I really enjoyed it. It was never a chore. So it's just a fine line, I think. I don't think you should force anyone to get out there, but I voluntarily did it with my dad, so it was great.
I absolutely love that. And I was interviewing a while back Connor McDavid's mom, and she had a very similar thing where basically she's like, oh, there was a day where he's like, you know what, I'm not really feeling that good. I'm not going to shoot pucks today. She's like, no problem. You don't have to. And then an hour later, he's sitting there and he's like, now, you know what, I'm going to feel bad if I don't. I'm going to go out and do it, right? And she's not pushing him to shoot pucks, and your dad wasn't pushing you to go. You did it because you wanted to, right? And I guess this is a personal question because I hear from a lot of hockey parents. They're dragging their kids to the rink. They're signing up to every camp. Maybe the kid doesn't really want to go to each one. Was your dad dragging you to the rink, or were you dragging your dad to the rink?
Yeah, I just don't think you can get really good at something if you don't even like it. So, I don't know anyone in the NHL who was forced to play hockey their whole lives. I think that's crazy. But yeah, I just think it was my dad, really helped me a lot. I think as a kid, I was really good growing up and being from a small town in Nova Scotia, Cole Harbour. Good against my peers, but it was exciting. I went to Montreal when I was 9 to see if I was actually good. So, that's a lot of money and for my dad and time away from work. But it was just an opportunity that he gave me that was exciting. And I was pretty good against those kids too in Montreal and Toronto, which was insane to me. Everyone thought I fished on the Toronto team. They were all fishermen back home. I never fished in my life, but that's just kind of the little stereotype you get. But that was really cool. Definitely a forward-thinking way my dad helped me improve and just giving me confidence.
I love that. And it sounds like it came from a place of love. He's doing it because he saw how much you loved it, and he's trying to give the most to you.
Yep.
Last question here, and it was from Ryden. He was asking, and I've gotten this from a lot of players. They ask, how do you prepare for tryouts? The kids are nervous heading to a tryout. I know you haven't had a tryout for a team for a while, but I'm sure you must have experienced that, trying out for a team. What advice could you give to a kid who, tryouts are coming up, they want to do their best, but they're a little bit nervous?
Yeah, I was always bad in tryouts, and I think never got cut too many times. But I think it's just because you want to be so good, so bad, and trying to force things. And like I've said, I know it's cliche, but the process in tryouts, you're just thinking about making the team and being amazing. And when you do that, usually it's not great. You're not playing your best. So I think prepare really well and kind of let the chips fall where they may. I know it's harder. It's easier for me to say that, but I really think that's the best way to go about it.
I think we have to steal a line from Coach Chippy here. Don't think, just flow.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. It's a great way to think about it.
All right. Appreciate your time, everyone.
Yeah, thanks, you.
Chair.
Oh, great questions, guys. All right, we're in wrap-up mode, guys. Just one final thing. It's kind of one thing that's apparent about all the conversation so far is, you're excited about the thing that you get to go and do. So what's got you excited right now, whether it's coming into training camp or whether it's the season ahead? Like, what's the thing that you're really looking forward to this year?
Just camp. Honestly, I love being back with my teammates, and it just feels summer is like, I don't know, it gets to a point where you just want to get it over with and get back to doing what you love. And it's fun when the schedule comes out and you start to think about different cities where you're at and the teams you're going to be playing against. I know it's the same teams every year, but it feels different for some reason. So I think it's just natural for us to be told what to do and where to go. And but yeah, I think just the grind of things is fun, and looking forward to getting back to it.
One thing I love about it's a theme that you hear a lot in the way that you talk is so many people have such a negative connotation of the word grind, but you don't. Like you've used it so many times and brought it up, and you're just like, I just love the grind of it, and it's the idea that the steel gets sharpened because of the grind. So I think that's a great takeaway for other people is they try to avoid it. People are like anti-hustle culture nowadays.
The grind will come in anything you do, I think. So
yeah,
might as well embrace it a little bit.
That's great. Andy, what are you excited about right now?
When you're in a support role like I am, there's nothing better than watching the athletes in big competitions. And so I just excited to see them get out there and apply all the work that they've been doing, and especially with some of the international stuff coming up. You have the Olympics, Four Nations Cup, and I get really fired up when there's a big game coming up, or something where you can actually see them perform and see the fruits of all that labor that they've put in, come to fruition. And that's pretty cool.
That's great, Johnny.
Yeah, for me on the business side, it's just velocity, right? Our distribution is growing by the day, based on our relationships and everything we developed to date. But to see the product turn off the shelves, and at what rate, that's always a telling sign of how you're doing how you're doing as a business. So I'm really looking forward to seeing the data that's upcoming, and I like to think ahead a bit to where we'll be from a year from now, and what those numbers will look like. That really excites me.
Yeah, I think on the inside of that conversation with John, it's like you're probably very much looking forward to ripping the hearts out of some of the competition that's out there. If we're being very truthful and honest about that.
Yeah, I mean, the Undertaker's a bit of a spirit animal right now in me, I think. It's the competitive nature. Obviously, we have huge aspirations, and we think they're very obtainable. Yeah, and it's a competitive world.
But right? that's what I mean is like if we're gonna have honest conversations about what the mindset of a champion is like that's what it actually looks like, and whether it offends someone else out there or it doesn't. Like I mean, I don't really care because this is just what it looks like at the top level. That is an attitude of people. Like when you're going into a cup final, like. Yeah, it's great to win one in the 7th game, but you also we would like to sweep people and go 4-0 and not have to deal with the 6th game, pregame talk. So, to everyone that's watched, or if you've watched clips of this or you're watching just the end of it right now, thanks for joining us. If there's one thing specifically, like one great takeaway or something that was meaningful for you, drop it in the comments below. All of us with the stuff that we do, it's nice to get that kind of feedback loops so that you can maybe create more content or talk about it more to inspire other people. And then don't be afraid to share it with others as well, whether it's a team that you've got or just on your own social channels. And again, a special thanks to Quench Hydration and John's team and Andy's team and Nate for putting this whole thing together. So thanks again. Thanks for joining us, and have a great rest of your day.
Nathan McKinnon.
Sports performance specialist, Andy O'Brien.
Learning about the whole idea of strength and conditioning and how it can help this performance.
The CEO of Cizzle Brands, John Salento.
Is an entrepreneur, a coach, a mentor.
Athletes, public figures, leaders from all around the world. I've been doing this for 22 years. Specifically, I've been building alter egos and secret identities since 2003.
performance specialist, Andy O'Brien.
Learning about the whole idea of strength conditioning and how it can help his performance.
CEO of Cizzle Brands,